Hello guys and welcome back to another video. In this video I will be talking about a Huns Deathmatch start, and this video is for the advanced player. So last video we talked about grid formations and we talked about queuing units and we talked about the building order, like building stables, then barracks, then ranges. So if you guys aren't familiar with those types of things, then I would recommend going back and watching the last video. But if you feel comfortable with those things, then let's move forward. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about three different things, and those three things, oh my gosh, and those three things are raiding and defending with a scout, raiding, defending with a paladin, and lastly, a kind of checkpoint for training to see you kind of where you're at with things. I have a little checkpoint thing that I'm going to talk about later. So, yeah, so first thing first, I'm going to talk about raiding and defending with scouts. And keep in mind that I'm going to be leaving out pieces of information about, raiding with the scouts, raiding with the paladin. And it's not to not, I don't mean to like withhold the information from you guys, but I'm trying to just give you guys the more general ideas with the rating, and I'm not going to give you all the little details. That's probably going to be in my next video or the following video after that, the real advanced tips. Um, but in this video, I'm just going to try to keep it short and to the point. And so, yeah. So one thing you may have noticed at the beginning of the game is that you have a fully upgraded scout. You can use a scout to raid your enemy early on to slow their building production and kill villagers. If you don't quite feel comfortable with raiding with the scout yet, then you can choose to keep it at home to defend versus the enemy scout. But as you get better, you should try to incorporate scout raiding into your game. Most players will do either one of two things when starting the game. Players are going to either send the scout out right away to the enemy's base and then make their first three buildings, or they're going to make their buildings first and then send the scout out. So let's kind of look at this in action and see this. So I know from my from the game here that I send the scout out first right away. So you're going to see from my point of view that this scout is going to move before you see any building foundations. So let's watch. Okay, scouts moved. So you can see here that I moved the scout right away. And just to give you guys an idea of what I did here is I'm basically starting the game and I'm actually queuing these villagers in the black screen. And I don't know if you guys know what that is. I'll probably go over that in the next video, but that's what I was doing there. So if you feel like I forgot that, I didn't. Okay, I'll talk about that next video. But what I did is I pressed the idle military button and that'll go to my scout. And then I click down on the mini map, right? I just go idle military mini map, and then I click where I see the berries. On my mini map, I have a mod that changes the color of the berries, so it's a little bit easier to see. So I just do idle military, and I click somewhere in this location here, right? Now, if we look over at True, see what he did, you can see his scout hasn't even moved yet. So he's doing the other approach, which is he's building the buildings first, and then he's going to move the scouts. So you'll see here, buildings and then scout, right? And I'm sure he did the same thing. He built the buildings, then he probably pressed tab, which, well, he didn't press tab. He pressed whatever his idle military was probably, or he just clicked on it, and then moved his scout that way. So there's two different ways, and I would think that generally it's better to send the scout right away when you're really close, because that way your scout can get there before their buildings actually finish. And if you're farther away, I think it's better to send the scout out later after you've selected the first three buildings. But the problem is that you don't really have the time to look at your map to make that decision. Because by the time you looked at the map to make the decision, you could have already built three buildings, right? So it's something that you kind of just do or you don't do. You don't really make a decision really based on it, not based on anything, anything in the game at least. Um, so we covered all that. And the other thing is once you've made the buildings or you set the buildings up, right, you're gonna want to go back to your scout and probably put it into a control group. That way you can, once the scout gets closer to their base, you can select it. So um, let's kind of just go forward here. So you can see the buildings are getting made. We'll talk about all the other additional stuff in the next video probably, but so the scout's coming. One thing that's important to do with the scout, don't patrol your scout, all right? Do not patrol your scout. I know that that's something in random map where it's like, Yeah, patrol across the base, whatever, right? And you're gonna patrol a lot more in deathmatch, but in the beginning, do not patrol because what'll happen is your scout's gonna, if you patrol across, your scout's gonna lock onto their scout, and you don't really want that because it takes a long time for their scout to kill your scout. Your scout's better off just trying to kill villagers because it takes like 4 hits to kill them. So don't patrol across. Um, do do. Alrighty. So yeah, the scout's gonna be coming in. I kind of want to talk about something else before the scout comes in here, but I'm just gonna. So like, if you're trying to defend versus a scout, you're gonna do a couple different things here. You're either going to wall the scout out, which is easy. If you have a grid layout like this, you know, you put a wall here, wall here, wall here, and then the scout basically has to go all the way around, right? You can either wall it out, or you can um, you can basically let the scout hit the villager. So it's gonna take how many shots it's gonna take? It's gonna take 4 shots to kill a villager. So what you can do is if the scout's attacking this villager here, just run the villager onto the town center and let it take 3 shots, so it's at 10 HP, and then just garrison it right when it's about to die. And the reason why you do this instead of just garrisoning it right away is if you garrison it right away, the scout's just gonna like retarget another villager, and that's just gonna be annoying because it just requires more micro. So if you let it take 3 hits, that'll give you a little bit more time to let your paladins get made. And once your paladin's made, so say your villager's under the town center and it's getting hit, and then like right before you garrison it, a paladin's made. Well, as soon as you garrison the villager, what's gonna happen next is the hussar is gonna attack the paladin automatically. So like yeah, so you just let it take the hit and then yeah. Or you could let the villager die. I wouldn't recommend letting the villager die, but you could do that too. Anyways, so now that we kind of covered that, um, another thing, one more aggressive thing with the scout is when you're going in on the enemy. If your hussar is about to die, so say like a paladin's attacking it, run the hussar to like a corner of the map, right? So that the paladin can't be used to raid you then. Because if you just let the hussar die underneath the town center or like over here or whatever, right? Then like you could have gotten more value out of it by making it so that the paladin couldn't raid you. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of an additional tip, but whatever. Um, all right. So next thing we want to talk about is paladin raiding, because now okay, we've dealt with the hussar, right? It makes sense. Let's talk about paladin raiding. So as soon as the stables come up, we want to queue paladins in the stables, right? The next thing you want to do is you want to set waypoints on the stables, right? You don't really want to have the waypoint just set to the default, because then the paladins are just going to spawn right around the stables, and like that's okay, but it's not ideal because you're gonna want to raid with the paladin, so you want to like be going to the enemy base as soon as possible. So we want to set waypoints. So right now, True hasn't set any waypoints with the stables, but you'll see in a second he does. So in order to set the waypoints, all you're going to do here is, well, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to press the go to stable like this, and then you're going to right click on the mini map, right? So if I have Fog of War off, he already knows I'm in this location, so he'd probably just go stable, waypoint, waypoint, right? And he set 3 different waypoints behind my base, right? That's one way to do it. The other way you could do it is when the stables are built, you could set a control group to them, right? And you could go like this. You could click on the mini map over there, and you could go one, because remember you have explored map one, so you can see it, and then you would deselect one, and make sure you're deselecting the full HP ones, the ones that are already made. You go like that. It's a little bit more accurate, but it also requires a little bit more like micro. I mean, when I say a little bit more, it requires quite a bit more. So, anyways, so you'll see here, True. Look at that. Like almost, I didn't even set these waypoints. He set these waypoints right here. Look at this. He sets them like right away. You can see here, he's got them all set. It's kind of weird. He's got them all set in the same location. But okay, now he moved them. So he's got actually has them set to 3 different locations. One is like right here, one's here, and one's here. That's pretty good. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to set them behind the enemy base. That way, the paladins are running through the base and not stopping out front. Because if they stop out front, they're just going to die to the helbs and paladins. But if they're running through, then like even if the helbs and paladins are attacking them, they're not really hitting them because the paladins are just running away. So that's usually good. I don't want to talk too much about the little details because I can talk about that in the future video. So for now, the time being, just yeah, set your waypoints. Um, Another big thing is you don't want to send more than 6 paladins usually, because what happens is the enemy is pretty much already finished building all their military buildings by the time you have like, if you sent like 7, 8, 9 paladins, by the time those next 3 get there, your enemy's pretty much built all their military buildings, which is like the main objective of raiding, is to prevent them from doing that. And they also have a lot of military there, so you're probably not going to get any value out of your paladins by sending them to your enemy like that. Those like next 3, just send like 6 and be happy if you get a couple villagers. So yeah. What else here? Yeah, I mean, if you can kill 3 to 6 villagers, I think it's pretty good. Probably maybe not 3. 3 might not be as good, but 6 would definitely be good. What you want to do is when you're queuing up units at home, you want to make sure that you're checking on your paladins on the minimap. So always kind of be looking back at the minimap and seeing where your paladins are at. Once your paladins start to get in this location here, that's when you want to like either go to the control group if you have them set to control group, or just click on the map. It might be easier just to click on the map, but click on the map and then find villagers that way. Don't if you lose track of them on the map and you just send them out, then there's a good chance that they don't even get any, they don't kill any villagers, because if you're not really controlling them, then yeah, it's tough to get kills. Let's see here. What else we gotta talk about? Do, do, do. Defending versus the paladins is really similar. It's a lot similar, very similar to defending versus the scout. So except this time you don't want to let the paladins hit the scout, or you don't want the paladins to hit the villagers, because the paladins basically kill the villagers in like what, 2 hits or something. It's like maybe not 2 hits, like 3 hits, but they kill them so fast. You don't want to let them hit the villager. So if you do see like the paladins targeting your villager, just run it. So the couple way to defend is, again, um, quick wall the paladins out. Another thing is, if you have paladins coming on the side, like say they're coming on the side here, right, and they're not targeting a villager, if you feel like you're worried these villagers are going to get attacked, right, when the paladin stops or whatever, just move them over here, right? Then the paladins will just sit here and they'll attack a building or something like that, right? Um, if the paladins are locked onto a villager, your best bet is garrisoning the villager. You can try to quick wall, but when it fails, you just wasted more time, so it's not really worth it. Um, Another thing you could do instead of quick walling is build like towers and outposts. The benefit there is that you can just double click on the towers and it'll select all of them, so they're easier to delete when you need to, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. And then the last thing is, and this is the thing I'm not really good at, but you could probably work on it if you wanted to, is using military to block. So like you'll see here, by the time I get some paladins over here, by the time my paladins come over, he's already got some helps here. He's just rallying the helps out here, but he could even like micro the helps here and like put them in these areas here. That way they kind of block the paladins from coming in. My paladins are late because I didn't set waypoints. I just had them garrison here or rally here, and they're a lot slower than his. And it does make a big difference, because like if I'm focusing on defending here, I'm not focusing on raiding here, and that means my paladins are just dying for nothing. So yeah. Um, so yeah, that's kind of, again, with raiding. If your paladin can't get the villager, run it to the corner. Right? Don't even try to run it back, because they got military following you going this way. If you go back this way, the military is just gonna hit you and just kill your paladin. So just keep running it to the corner. Da, 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 da. And that's pretty much all I want to tell you guys about raiding for now. So there's probably a couple more tips you guys can learn, but for now, I'm just gonna leave it at that, and we're gonna be done talking about raiding for now. All right, so last thing I want to talk about in this video is uh, kind of how do you know how good you're getting with this, right? So you guys watch the first 3 videos, or maybe the last one, or whatever, right? And you want a way to know, like, how do I know I'm getting better at this? I mean, I think it's something where you should probably know, because these are like really basic things and you should learn them pretty fast. But this is what True actually told me when he was helping me improve. And he said that you want to get, when you're not getting rated, so if you're playing against the computer and the computer's not rating you or doing anything like that, you want to get 110 population by 4 minutes in, right? And so what I would say is, if you guys are comfortable with building the buildings now and queuing the units, right? What you should do is go against the AI on easy, so it's not rating you, and just don't even focus on rating. Just queue units and see if you can get 110 population in 4 minutes on fast speed. And I think I forgot to mention this in the past video, but do it building 4 stables, 6 barracks, and 6 ranges. Don't build 6 stables because that'll screw up the rest of your stuff, but 4 stables, 6 ranges, 6 barracks, just like True does here, right? And shoot for 110 population, 4 minutes, right? Once you can do that, then what you should do is try doing 110 again, but this time send 6 paladins out, like simulate like you're raiding an actual player, but do it against the easy AI, right? And see if you can still keep up your production at home while trying to raid, right? And then lastly, if you want to see where you're at on things with the raiding, practice against actual players, right? And see where you're at. Now, I'd say if you're playing against actual players, your rating's not going to be, you're probably not going to get 110. I would say that you're at a very respectable level when you can get to about 100. If you 100, and it wouldn't even be 100 population anymore. It'd actually be 100 trained units. So if you have the spectator overlay and you watch the recording back, don't look at the population, look at the trained units, because that's going to tell you how good your production was. All right, and so if we fast forward this game here, and this is something that, one sec. This was something that I did for maybe my first 3 or 4 days of playing deathmatches. I just played against the AI and I played against a few like lower level friends, and I just practiced like doing the first 4 minutes, right? And you can see here he started to build siege workshops and town centers. We'll get to that in later videos, but for just this beginning military part, see if you can get to, you know, against other players again. Try to get 100 trained. So both me, True and I got over 100. But look at this. He got 112. The actual number that, you're supposed to get against an AI doing nothing, he actually got 112 in this game. So that's really impressive. Um, but yeah, check and see how you're doing. And yeah, I would say that one small tip. I'll give it to you guys next video. Watch the next video and it'll help you even more on how to get that 110 or whatever. I'll throw it in the next video. But anyways, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I know it was a little bit longer of a video, but I want to make sure I covered a decent basis, especially because I don't really plan on making many more videos on the start. So hopefully you guys learned something in this video. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you next video. Peace.